So we were seeing about the sensors which will be used in our smart homes. So yesterday we have seen about infrared sensor, and we have seen how infrared sensor is used for detecting the motion and also for detecting obstacles. So that is the first thing. And then we have seen the imaging sensor and the motion sensors. So how to detect the presence of human beings and other things we have seen. And mainly it is used for security purpose. So now we are going to see some more sensors which are going to be involved in our smart homes in different various applications. The first one is passive infrared sensor technology. So it is called as PIR sensor or a motion sensor. So it is a passive infrared technology. So active infrared, I told you, active infrared will be sending IR radiation and will be receiving the IR radiation back if the obstacle is there. If the obstacle is not there, we will not be receiving the IR radiation back. Okay. But passive infrared means I am going to use this infrared to see if somebody else is emitting infrared radiation or not. Passive means I am detecting if there is any infrared radiation around my surroundings. That is going to be the passive. And in infrared, as you know, it cannot be seen, it can only be detected. So objects generate heat. So you know that any object is going to generate heat, and that the heat is going to fall in the infrared band. So it includes animals and human body, everything. And you have a peak radiation at 9.4 micrometers. And this 9.4 micrometers is going to fall in the infrared band. So this will not pass through many types of materials. So infrared light, as even a normal light, also you show a torchlight to a wall, the light cannot penetrate through the wall. The light will be reflected back to you, right? Same way, this infrared signal also cannot pass through many of the medium, specifically window glass and plastic. Okay, so many materials which pass light, such as window glass and plastic, also but do not pass infrared radiation. However, they will pass, but there will be very high attenuation that the ray will die out as soon as it enters the glass or a plastic medium. So we are more bothered about this 9.4 micrometer band because this is the wavelength at which the human radiation is going to be peak. Okay, so we are going to, if we are able to detect this 9.4 micrometers, we can ensure that there is some human being about human being in the surrounding. But this 9 point micrometer infrared will pass through polyethylene, so which is generally used to make the lenses to focus infrared into the sensor element. So infrared is able to pass through polyethylene without any difficulty. So all if we make all the optical objects based on polyethylene, then I can play with infrared like anything. So I am going to use polyethylene to make all my lens so that I can focus the infrared onto the sensor elements. Okay, for further processing. So typically you see any thermal energy is radiated in the surroundings will fall on this Fresnel lens. And you know the purpose of the lens. The lens will focus the radiation onto the IR filter. This IR filter is going to be the passive infrared sensor. Okay, so you know this Fresnel lens is made up of polyethylene, and this polyethylene is going to allow the infrared light to pass through. So whenever the thermal radiation, you know that the thermal radiation is going to fall in the infrared band, right? So when the thermal radiation is going to hit on this Fresnel lens, the lens is a convex lens. So this lens will converge your thermal radiation into the PIR sensor. And the PIR sensor has a IR filter, and this IR filter will just allow the IR rays to pass through. All other rays outside the IR band is completely filtered. So when you detect a signal through this passive infrared sensor, it will produce an equivalent voltage, and you can amplify it, and you can compare with the standard value to check whether the temperature is okay, and you can display the output. The passive infrared means you will not have a transmitter receiver module as you have like your active infrared sensor. Okay, that the dual system of transmitter and receiver will not be there. I'll be having only one device called as passive infrared sensor, and this sensor is going to sense IR signals and produce an equivalent voltage or current proportional to the incident IR signal. Okay, the setup is very clear. Thermal energy means assume a human being is coming and standing here. Okay, a human being is coming and standing here, so he will radiate thermal energy. He will radiate heat. That heat will fall on this panel lens and get focused on the IR filter. And this PIR sensor will detect the presence of IR radiation and will produce an equivalent voltage or current to the amplifier. Amplifier, see, this output voltage will be very, very low. You cannot display this in a through output device. So for displaying the output to the display device, you need to amplify the signal or you need to boost the signal strength, right? So for that, I'm going to amplify this signal and then I'm going to compare and see whether this range is normal, whether this range is normal, whether human being is there or the human being is radiating in the normal range. If the comparator is going to be giving a good true output, the output will be displayed. Otherwise, you will not take any action. So comparator will compare one value from the sensor, one value you will have threshold. So if something goes above threshold, the comparator will react. Otherwise, the comparator will stay silent. If no thermal energy is, if the person is not there, then the output will be zero, and the threshold will be, we will be setting, assume this the output is output of amplifier is zero, and I have set the threshold as 5. So zero is less than 5, so the output will not show any difference. When a human being is there, assume the amplifier output is 10 and the threshold is 5. 10 is more than 5, so it will start blinking, or you can blink LEDs to display that there is a human being present in the surrounding. So this is the basic explanation of the PER sensor setup. So it is, the sensor is made up of a crystalline material that generates electric charge proportional to the infrared radiation. So how much radiation you have proportional to the charge you will be generating. So when the amount of radiation changes, the amount of charge also changes because it's directly proportional, right? So amount of radiation is proportional to the charge. Okay, it's proportional to the charge. The sensor elements are very sensitive, so they can detect from 8 to 14 micrometer range, which is the most sensitive region for human body radiation. So if we can add a filter which will allow only the signals from 8 to 14 micrometer, then I can exclusively use that sensor for detecting human presence alone. Okay, and definitely you will have an amplifier. Mostly you will be using FET as an amplifier, and you can amplify the signal and show it to the output. Okay, so they say that this 8 to 14 micrometer range is taken care by this IR filter. This IR filter will allow the IR signals only in the wavelength band of 8 to 14 micrometers only. So outside this band, whatever visible light comes or ultraviolet rays come, it is going to completely reject that signal. Okay, it is going to completely reject that signal. So you have an amplifier circuit which is going to be called as a conditioning. Signal conditioning means you're going to properly modify the signal for displaying to the output. And the amplifier is, you have very less noise because already the signal is going to be very, very weak. So you have a comparator which compare both the which compares the value from the sensor and the preset value. So you can ensure that whenever there is a change in whenever there is a change in the voltage levels, the output will show some difference. And thermal radiation, whenever the temperature is also very high, whenever you have sunlight exposure to your PIR sensor, whenever vibration is there, all these are also connected. All these also will produce radiation, but the they will also produce thermal energy. But it is ensured that the sensor will filter out all these things in such a way that it will allow only wavelength in the range 8 to 14 micrometers only. So others, everything is filtered out. The body passing in front of the sensor will activate first one element and then the other. Okay, so you have two elements in the sensor, right? One is the filter, and another one is the electric sensor. So one is the filter, next one is the pyroelectric sensor. So thermal energy is focused into the elements by the IR filter. So the IR filter will first filter only the required range, and when it's going to fall on the pyroelectric sensor, it is going to produce the equivalent charge. Okay. So whenever unwanted signals are going to be entering, either the IR filter will remove them completely or the pyroelectric sensor will be cancelling them. So whereas whenever you have noise and other unwanted signals entering your circuit, they are ensured that they are not carried forward into your signal. So Fresnel lens, it is made up of polyethylene, so that that polyethylene is the only material which can pass infrared light through it. So the Fresnel lens is made up of polyethylene material so that it can focus the infrared beam into the PIR sensor, and you have an amplifier and comparator to show the output. So see here, the sensitive area is two elements. The two elements are the IR filter and the pyroelectric sensor. Spectral response 5 to 14 micrometers, human body radiation range. Supply volt you require 3 to 15 volts for functioning because you have amplifier inside. It's an active device. Output voltage 20 volt, 20 millivolt peak to peak. It's a very very weak signal. So that's the need here. That's why we are going to need an amplifier to post it. Operating temperature from 30 to 70 degrees Celsius. Viewing angle, it can detect human presence up to 95 degrees. Detection range up to 30 feet. So up to 30 feet, it can sense the thermal radiation and immediately inform the output. Noise 20 microvolt peak to peak. So this is the noise you can expect that to be added up in the system. So, typical application, automatic lighting system. So, street lights are powered by LED and it's controlled power supply. And to avoid wastage, whenever a human being is near the street light, you can turn them on. Otherwise, you can turn them off. The automatic lighting system can be implemented using PIR sensor, and it can detect up to 30 feet. 30 feet is a huge area, right? So you can control the entire street light operation dynamically using the PIR sensor. Security system, so you can detect human presence. So that mere human presence only it can say. It cannot say whether the person is authorized or unauthorized. That it cannot. That intelligence your PAR sensor does not have. It can just say whether the system is going to be, whether the people are around your locality or is surrounding. Smart floodlights. Same thing in stadium. Whenever depending on the number of people, you are going to alter the brightness of the lights. Burglar alarm, radar guns, and many more applications of PIR sensor are there. So this is one of the presentation I have a PIR sensor. See, as such, for all these sensors, you don't have separate textbook which contains all these things. So I have downloaded all your textbooks and reference books and seen and found that none of the reference and textbooks have in detail information about all these sensors. That's why I downloaded the presentation and I'm taking class in the presentation. Okay, I'll be uploading everything in your Google Classroom. You can download and read for your assessment, or you can write assignments from this also. That is enough, and you can prepare for your CAT 2 exams, which are scheduled soon, right? So this is one presentation of PIR sensor I have. I have one more presentation. I'll show that. Yes. So this is the device which you see. It is the compact product which is available in the market. So this is how a PIR sensor will look like. Okay. So this is the scanning area. This is where you have the lens, and lens is going to focus the thermal radiation in this area. Okay. So it is a built-in amplifier to detect motion. So it is one of the application of PIR sensor to detect motion, to detect motion of human beings or animals. Okay, so it uses a built-in amplifier to detect motion. So you have the IR module specifically used to detect the human IR radiation from human body. So you have the radiation from human body that is going to hit your sensor, and you can indicate that using a simple LED. This is simplest of the application, just connecting a PIR sensor and you are detecting the human activity. You are blowing an LED and showing that yes, there is a human presence. It can also detect other things that generate IR radiation. Even animals generate IR radiation. Even objects generate IR radiation. But accordingly, you can put filters here, or you can add one more sensor for that, and you can accordingly show whether there is human being around, or whether there is an animal around, or whether there are objects around. So you can put separate sensors for each of the application what you require, and you can develop this as an application. Okay, so this is the PIR sensor. As it is, if you go to Ritchie Street and ask for PIR sensor, this is what the device you will get, and it's a 3-pin device. So see here, it's a 3-pin device. One is for the output and plus and minus for your power supply. Simple device. You can do it in your house also. So plus and minus you connect to DC supply, and output you connect to an LED with the resistance. Because if you directly connect LED, the LED may burn because the current flowing from the output may be very high for the LED to withstand. So that's why they put a resistance to restrict the amount of current flowing through your LED. So it's a 3-pin device. Very simple. So it has a, and this is available as a PCB board. So everything is soldered and available as a Pakka package. So it has a built-in amplifier to convert the IR radiation into voltage. You have a comparator to show the output in digital form, and you have a stabilized power supply to supply power to the circuit. So whatever input or plus minus you give, that is given to the power supply inside. And it has a quad pyroelectric element to detect movement within this range. So it cannot detect directly based on thermal radiation. It will convert the thermal radiation into equivalent voltage or current. Okay, V or I. So radiation is converted into voltage or current. So the quad type means the quad type has 4 receptors. 4 receptors means it has 4 sensors, sort of thing. So it can pick up even from the smallest movement within the receptor. That's why they say it can be actively working up to 30 feet. So it can work up to 30 feet. Okay, so it can work up to 30 feet. So that is the range of your PIR sensor. So this makes the PIR sensors more accurate and effective. So CCTV camera image video பார்த்து detect பண்றதுக்கு this will immediately provide the result that there is some human being activity around the sensor. So that can be detected very easily using the PIR sensor. It's very simple. The operation, you see, the IR motion sensor detect the radiation instead of emitting them. See, usually that's what they're saying here. Usually we detect the obstacles by sending an IR ray, IR radiation, and then receive the IR radiation, and we make a conclusion. But here, instead of emitting them, we are going to detect the IR rays coming from the target sources. So so whenever you are going to detect an IR rays, the comparator output will be blinking to show the comparator will accordingly change its level and it becomes active. So 3 different resistors you have in the IC transfer it to all the internal components, and the comparator's output increases in the lights of the LED. So this is a package available. So this is the sensor and LED indicator. The LED will start glowing if it detects the presence of a human activity. So these are the different IR sensors available in the market. So temperature sensors, this is available in clocks. You know, in wall clocks nowadays, you have temperature sensors which will detect the temperature and it will display the temperature equivalent voltage will be obtained from the voltage. The equivalent digital representation is got in the clock. So what you see temperature, that is actually you cannot display temperature directly. The sensor will detect the temperature, it will convert the temperature into voltage, and that equivalent voltage value is again displayed as a equivalent temperature value in the digital clock. So these temperature sensors are used for detecting temperature. PIR sensors, these are commercial available for home security. So wherever you go, you can see this device either fixed to the wall or fixed near the gate. Ultrasonic sensors can measure distance in 2 points. Yes. So these are types of PIR sensors. Even this ultrasonic sensor uses sound waves, but the main application of all these things are going to be the surveillance area. The focusing mechanism, how I am going to focus the IR radiation into the infrared sensor. So I am going to use lenses. That's what I told you. I'm going to use the Fresnel lens. The Fresnel lens is made up of polyethylene. Okay, so PIR uses lens and mirrors. Sometimes you can also use mirrors also in the absence of lenses, because mirrors provide more accurate focusing of your infrared radiation into the sensor, and mirrors also have more range. They can cover a large area to detect human activity more than the lenses. Okay, so the PIR sensors, they either use the lens or the mirrors for focusing. So you can use them in your setup and avoid placing them on the wall directly facing the window. How to avoid false detection? False detection means directly facing the window means anybody who opens the window, the alarm will start blowing. So avoid installing PIR sensors that blow hot or cold air, because that is going to be again it will consider it as thermal radiation, and it will start detecting false. It will be falsely detecting that there is a person, and install them high up on the wall to avoid being triggered by toddlers and pets. Since we have seen that these PIR sensors have a very high range, right? So they can cover a larger distance to detect people, right? So if you keep them as low as possible, then constantly the alarm will be ringing, because these toddlers, small babies, if they go near it, it will ring. These animals, if they come near it, it will ring. So you have to place them in a particular height that they are not being disturbed, or the system is not being triggered by all the toddlers and the pets. And don't keep them below the hot blowing ACs, or near that kitchen where your temperature is very hot. So those places avoid keeping them, and also avoid placing them on the wall directly facing the window, because whoever comes in or whoever sees through the window, it will start triggering this and it will blow the alarm. Okay. So this is one PAR sensor presentation I have. Now we are going to see the temperature sensors. So even as the temperature sensors are required in our house to monitor the home temperature, and accordingly, you have to accordingly you have to trigger some action for reducing the temperature. If the summer season means the temperature will be very high, so you have to either turn on the AC, or you have to open the window larger to let air come in and reduce the temperature. Temperature sensors are predominantly used in smart homes to periodically monitor the temperature and take actions accordingly. So it is a device, or it is typically a thermocouple or resistance temperature dependent device, which provides electric signal for the temperature measurement. See, all the sensors in general, I say, they cannot display, or they cannot uh, what to say, they cannot directly display temperature or pressure or volume. So what they measure the actual parameter, or whether it is temperature, pressure, or volume, and they convert that into an equivalent electrical signal only. Because all other things are electronics there. So unless your signal is electrical in nature, the electronic components cannot process your signal, right? So these sensors will convert the measured quantity into electrical signal for further processing. The temperature sensor, I'm going to use a thermocouple. The thermocouple, as the name indicates, thermo means it is going to have temperature, couple means two. So see here, a thermocouple is made from two dissimilar metals that generate electric voltage in proportion to the changes in temperature. So I'm going to take two metal bars, and I'm going to weld them. Okay, so you visualize what I'm saying. I'm going to take two metal bars, and I'm going to weld them in the middle. So this side I have metal A, this side I have metal B. One side of metal A, I'm going to keep metal A in hot water. I'm going to keep metal B in cold water or ice, or I'm going to make it cold. So one end of metal A is made hot, one end of metal B is made cold. So because of difference in temperature, thermal voltage is produced. So because of difference in temperature, and voltage is produced, and thus voltage is produced because of difference in temperature, right? So it is called as thermal voltage. So either you can measure the thermal voltage delta V. The thermal voltage is proportional to the change in temperature T1 minus T2. T1 is the hot temperature and T2 is the cold temperature. That is how a thermocouple is working. So it will generate electric voltage proportional to the changes in the temperature. So you can sense temperature either directly, or you can use remotely. So directly means direct contact with the heat source material. So directly, if you are in contact with the heat source material, or remotely with direct touch with the source using radiated energy. So you can measure the temperature directly. You know, human beings are going to emit IR radiation, right? So based on the IR radiation they emit, I can measure temperature from that. That is remote method. Direct method is you are going to have direct contact. You are going to place a temperature measuring strip over your forehead, and it will going to display the temperature of your body immediately. Okay. In thermocouple, how will they measure the voltage? You know, when the temperature is T1 and T2, when the temperature is T1 and T2, I can say T1 minus T2 is equal to some K into V. So the difference in temperature is going to be some constant into voltage. So instead of T1, the T1 is the hot end and T2 is the cold end, right? So instead of T1, if I'm going to have some person standing, so definitely there will be change in temperature. So depending on change in temperature, I can measure the change in voltage that is going to be measured and displayed. So direct contact means directly using the device I'm going to measure. In the indirectly, how I can measure? Indirectly, I can measure the temperature using the radiated energy from the that particular person or animal or any other thing. So a lot of temperature sensors are available in the market, so which are simple and compact. So see here, temperature, thermocouple temperature sensor. You have the RTD, which is going to resistance temperature dependent device. Thermistor, it's also going to be the controlled by resistor, semiconductor sensors, and digital temperature sensors. So these are the different types of temperature sensors available in the market. Okay, different temperature sensors available in the market. So first one we'll see about thermocouple. Okay, the thermocouple, as I said, it is a temperature sensor made by joining two dissimilar metals at one end. So if you use the same metal, then the thermal voltage will not be developed. What is the condition? I have to use two dissimilar metals. Dissimilar means I have to use two different metals and I'm going to join them by welding them. The joining end is referred to as the hot junction. The other end is going to be is called the cold end of or the cold junction. The cold junction is actually formed at the last point of the thermocouple material. See, two ways of creating thermocouple. So if you are going to take two materials A and B and you are going to weld them, and A side you keep it hot, B side you keep it cold. This is one way. Second way is what is given here. You take two metals A and B, weld them. The welded portion is kept at hot. The welded portion is kept at hot, and any one end other than the welded portion, you have two ends, right? So I can keep them cold. So this is another way of designing your thermocouple. Okay, if there is a difference in temperature between the hot junction and cold junction, a small voltage is created. So this is the it is a sensor, so it converts temperature into voltage. So if there is a difference in temperature, if the hot junction is at 30 degrees Celsius, the cold junction is at 10 degrees Celsius, a difference of 20 degrees you have, proportionately you will have the thermal voltage measured across the hot and cold junction. So this is the thermocouple. So see here, this is the simple diagram of a thermocouple. So you have an voltmeter to see whether the voltage is developed or not. See here, the measure one end hot, one end it's going to be cold. So you need not keep it in ice. So if one end is hot, if you leave the other end, relatively compare with this end is going to be always cold, right? So this can be at room temperature, this can be heated. So you see here, I'm going to heat it using a candle. So this is going to be the hot junction and this is going to be the cold junction. Cold junction is always at room temperature. Room temperature is 30 degrees Celsius or 27 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to keep the cold junction at room temperature. I'm going to use two different metals. You see, one metal is like this, one metal is like this. So I'm going to use two different metals. One second. Okay, so this is a simple example of a thermocouple. I'm going to generate, I'm going to measure the temperature difference in terms of voltage. Okay, now RTD, resistance temperature detector. So RTD is a temperature which is going to measure the change in temperature as a change in resistance. So, resistance, I am not sure how many of you know about resistance. Resistance is the proper, resistance is a device which is used to restrict the amount of current flowing through a particular wire. So generally, if you want to restrict the amount of current through a particular wire, you put a resistance there. So the resistance will resist the current from traveling freely inside the wire. Okay, so RTD is a sensor which is going to work on temperature and resistance. If the temperature is going to change, the resistance is also going to change. So for that, I'm going to use metals. I'm going to use platinum, or I'm going to use nickel or common. RTDs may take different shapes. You have a wire wound RTD or a thin film RTD. So different shapes of RTDs are available. So to measure the resistance of RTD, you have to apply a constant current. So measuring the resulting voltage and determine the RTD resistance. Okay, so what happens? Whenever there is a temperature change, the resistance of RTD will change. And how to measure that resistance? You know, Ohm's law V is equal to IR, right? So I want to measure R means I have to give current. So when you pass current through this RTD, voltage is developed. So I know V and I, V by I can do and measure this R. For standard room temperature, you know what is the value of R. When temperature is going to change, definitely this R value is also going to change. So from that, you can clearly identify what is the temperature in the nearby region. Okay. So simply RTD is based on Ohm's law. V is equal to IR. And here I need to measure R, right? So I can write R is equal to V by I. So RTDs exhibit linear resistance to temperature curves. So what they are saying is whenever temperature is going to increase, the resistance is also going to increase. So linear means they are directly proportional. So R is proportional to T. So when temperature is going to increase, resistance is also going to increase. And how to measure? For example, at room temperature 30 degrees Celsius, my R value is 1 ohm. For example, okay, when the temperature is 32 degrees Celsius, I found the R value to be 5 ohms. So if you do this for a set of temperatures, you will clearly see how R is varying with respect to T. And from that, you can easily measure the temperature of the surroundings. So first one is thermocouple. We have seen difference in temperature is proportional to voltage. But here, the temperature change is proportional to resistance. And how to measure the resistance? Use Ohm's law. V is equal to IR. I can write R is equal to V by I. For measuring resistance, I need voltage and current. So pass current through the RTD and measure the voltage. So I know V, I can find R is equal to V by I. Okay. So this is a simple RTD device you see. So it is use a surface mount RTD. So you have a surface mount RTD. You have an RTD bulb here. I think you can see. So this is going to detect the temperature change. So they are always, you have two wires coming here and going right. So that is going to provide constant current through your RTD. So RTDs are biased using constant current source, and so as to reduce self-heating due to power display. So current magnitude, the current is very, very small. Okay, it is negligible to provide to avoid overheating. So similar next, so this is the RTD. So equivalent temperature is sensed. That is voltage is you can get to the output of the device. Equivalent resistance I can get to the output of the device. So next one is thermistor. So similar to RTD, thermistor is a temperature sensing device. It is also going to change the resistance with temperature, but here it is opposite to our RTD. So RTD, I told when temperature is going to increase, resistance is going to increase, right? But here it will see reverse. When the temperature is going to increase, the resistance is going to decrease. There is a non-linear graph. So the temperature and resistance R is proportional to 1 by T. So inversely proportional relationship. Okay, so we can see whenever the temperature is going to change, you can see a very large variation resistance in thermistors because it is a negative temperature variation device. So resistance is going to vary in a inversely proportional way. Okay, in an inversely proportional way. The different ways how we can measure temperature. So one is directly proportional, that is called as RTD. In RTD, I said R is proportional to T. In a thermistor, R is proportional to 1 by T. It is going to be inversely proportional. So these are the available thermistors. So you can, they have an ideal set point. So for a standard room temperature, it is being set. If the temperature is going to change, the standard room temperature, the resistance value is going to change. The next one is digital temperature sensors. This is actually available with all the doctors and also in the wall clocks where you have temperature display the digital way. So it will also have a temperature sensors. Now output of all the sensors are analog. So analog means the value is going to vary continuously. So the temperature also, if it's displaying it as 35 in your house in a clock, it doesn't mean it is 35 always. It will be 35. See, the decimal point is not displayed to you accurately. We just focus on the integer part. It is 35.1, it is 35.2. It will be varying continuously, right? So the output of all the sensors are analog in nature. But number, what is our bad luck is all the display devices are digital in nature. So definitely what you need, we need a device to convert analog to digital. It is called as an ADC. So it will convert the analog value to digital for displaying in the LED display. The temperature is continuously measured. The sensor is going to measure temperature 24/7, and it is going to feed the value to a simple processor. So the processor will convert the temperature into voltage and display the voltage equivalent temperature on the digital display, which is visible to the users. Okay, so you can program the microprocessor to detect a low temperature threshold or also high temperature threshold. Threshold can be room temperature, or in India we can have it as 30 degrees Celsius or 27 degrees Celsius. So room temperature is 27 degrees Celsius, and we can have a threshold. So if it is going to exceed 35, I can say that it is very hot. If it is below 35, I can say the temperature is moderate. So I can set all these things using the processor. So your processor can ensure that I can set the threshold and I can monitor the temperature accordingly. Where it mainly when it is used in thermal power plants and all, right, the temperature should not exceed a particular value. So if it exceeds, the plant will be in danger, right? So in those cases, monitoring temperature continuously becomes a very serious activity. So even a 0.1 degree rise in temperature can cause some serious harm to the entire system. Okay. The features, this is all the digital features of the pin description and all given. So we need not go in depth. I think it is self understood. So we can we can define user defined temperature. So if the temperature is going to exceed that, the output becomes high, the output is active. Otherwise, the temperature is going to be low. So you can set all the temperature settings. It is saved in the memory so that it will not be erased at all. So you can interface this device, and you can read the temperature and display it in a digital format. Semiconductor sensors. So these are the some of the different types of sensors like voltage output, current output. So what type of output you want? Either voltage or current or digital output or resistance output, silicon or diode temperature sensors. So many types of semiconductor based sensors are available, and they work very well in the range of 55 to 150 degrees Celsius, the very high accuracy. And you also have amplifiers to convert the low output voltage into a very high output voltage. So they are also used in cold junction compensation circuits for temperature range thermocouples. So even semiconductor sensors are slowly replacing or playing their part in thermocouples. So sensor ICs, variety of ICs are there. IC means integrated circuits. So it's a chip. So you can just buy the chip from the market, and you can design your own component directly. That is available to simplify the temperature monitoring. So the chip will detect the temperature, and it will accordingly provide the corresponding equivalent voltage. So these IC chips are made up of silicon. The first is you have you have several parameters of these chips, right? First one is the operating temperature range. So it can change from 50 minus 55 to 150. So in this range, it can accurately detect the temperature value in this range to 2 decimal points. Second major difference is functionality. The silicon temperature sensor is an IC, and therefore you can use it along with the same package. Additionally, you need not have any other device to be attached. You can use the same device for completely measuring the temperature. So others combine analog sensing to provide alert function. So analog sensing is also there, digital sensing is also there. So both have their own pros and cons. So we cannot say whether analog system is good or digital system is good. No. So it depends on for what application and how quick we are going to measure the temperature. So these are the LM35 is the most popularly used temperature sensor. It is also used in all your projects So it's a very low cost temperature sensor which will detect any temperature in the range minus 55 to 150 degree Celsius, suitable for remote applications, and it can operate at a low voltage, and it is also good. It can calibrate the answer directly in Celsius. It will give you the answer directly in Celsius. So it assumes the air temperature is the surface. The surface temperature will be considered to be the air temperature. Air temperature is going to be the room temperature. So the actual difference in temperature between the surface and air will be measured. The uh, surface temperature will be the surface of the IC, and air temperature is just above the IC. So if both are same, then there is no surface temperature will be the IC temperature, which will be, the temperature of IC is normal temperature. When the air temperature is going to rise from normal, can detect the temperature change. So it can nowadays see all these sensors aligned with digital temperature readings in Celsius scale. So you have a Celsius scale where you'll get the answer in Pakka display, digital display format, 30 to 25 degrees C. So it will be displayed perfectly in that way. So three pins you have. One is the power supply pin, three is the ground pin, and two is the output. So if the temperature is going to change at pin number two, you can get the output and you can see how the temperature is varying. So digital temperatures sensors, they offer the accuracy is very good, and they are designed to read from 0 to 70 degrees Celsius to have a zero point 0.5 degrees Celsius accuracy. So this accuracy is very good in digital sensors. So we have seen temperature sensors. So we have two more sensors, thermal sensors and water level sensor. I think we will study this in the tomorrow's class. I think we will be doing this in tomorrow's class.